This is a very quick video on Zack Snyder. So, as you see this art here by Alex Ross with Superman. I think this is from the graphic series by Evangelista, I believe it is. And Zack Snyder, he posted up this picture on Vero. I'm not on Vero, of course. And it's showing here Henry Cavill in the Superman suit, and you see bullets fired at him the same way as in the Alex Ross depiction. Right? Now, this looks like a combination of Photoshop and actual toys. I don't know if this doesn't look like a hot toy. This looks more like maybe a Mesco toy. But what's really cool about this is that it's imitating basically the Alex Ross Evangelista depiction of Superman here, which is what's so cool. And I got this from actually Movie Pilot, so let me just shout out to Movie Pilot for that. And Zach says, Josh is right. This is awesome. I don't know who Josh is, but the real cool thing about it is, you know, just seeing this is pretty awesome. All right. Now, let's address Zack Snyder really quickly. So there's a lot of things that people misunderstand about Zack Snyder. First of all, they say he's a great visual director, but when it comes to storytelling, he can't tell a story. It's not true. They say he's like Michael Bay. He can do a lot of action. He's an action director. That's not true. They say that he's all about deconstructing heroes. That's not true either. And what else did they say? They say all kinds of crazy things. They're saying that in the DCEU, he's going to continue to try to deconstruct the heroes, which is not true either. So let's get into it and let's just deal with this. And there's another article saying that Zack Snyder and Jeff Johns, they have diametrically opposed views of superheroes, and they have different ways of moving forward the DCEU, which is not true either. Okay, I'm glad that Andrew Dice did this article, because this article basically questions that. It says, does Zack Snyder and Jeff Johns disagree on DCU's future? And it's really well written. Some things I don't agree with Andrew Dice on, and some things I do agree with him on, okay, from this article. But you should check it out. It's on Screen Rant. It came out a couple days ago. Now, anyway, concerning Zack Snyder, let me address each one of these things. The first one, they say, is he's good at doing action. He's really great. He's a great visual director, but they don't acknowledge his storytelling, which is very layered and rich. Okay, Zack Snyder has a very layered, rich storytelling style, and he usually goes into meaningful things for people. Okay, Michael Bay, he's not a Michael Bay. Michael Bay is an over-the-top action director. He literally is an action director. That's what Michael Bay does. You look at all his films, and it's all action-heavy, style-heavy, but it's over-the-top action-heavy, and very little. It's entertaining, but there's no value in anything that he does. Okay, let me give you an example. The Rock was great. It was entertaining. It was about this escape, but there was no value other than that. And you go to Bad Boys 2, entertaining, over the top, lots of action, very stylized, but there's no moral to the story. All right. Transformers, action, lots of adventure, over the top action, lots of stylized action, story really thin, paper thin story, really no moral to the story. Okay. Zack Snyder's not that kind of director. Okay? Zack Snyder's going to make you question things. Now, the other myth is that he's a deconstruction. He's very good at deconstructing heroes. 300 didn't do a deconstruction of heroes. Dawn of the Dead didn't do a deconstruction of heroes. Al Ghul didn't do a deconstruction of heroes. Man of Steel didn't do a deconstruction of heroes. Wonder Woman didn't do a deconstruction of heroes. So that talk is all baloney. The only movie in which, two movies that he did deconstruction of heroes, the first one, Watchmen, was all about that. The writers, Alan Moore, that's why he wrote Watchmen, because it was the comic was a deconstruction of heroes. And Batman v Superman, he deconstructed especially this hero, Batman. He didn't deconstruct Superman. He didn't deconstruct Superman at all. But he deconstructed Batman. Okay? Batman was going through a moral, ethical crisis. No doubt about that. And it was definitely a deconstruction of him, and it was very disturbing. Superman wasn't deconstructed. No, not at all. Okay? Superman has been growing. He's been growing as a character, but his moral core has been the same. In fact, it's gotten stronger. Okay. The other thing I've heard them say about Zack Snyder, they said a lot of things, is that he wants to continue deconstructing heroes in the DCEU, and someone needs to save the DCEU from that. No, he doesn't. Erroneously, Andrew Dice says that they learned their lesson about deconstructing heroes from Batman v Superman, and they know that the fans will not want them to deconstruct heroes anymore. But no, that's not what Zack Snyder said. That's erroneous. Zack Snyder, Chris Terrio, and all Company Limited, before Batman v Superman came out, were saying that Justice League was going to be a brighter movie than Batman v Superman. That Batman v Superman was like the second in the trilogy of Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back. It's a dark kind of story in that respect. So, no, Zack Snyder's not going to deconstruct any more heroes. The only hero that was deconstructed was Batman. Okay? But all the heroes, including Wonder Woman in the Wonder Woman movie, and Zack Snyder has a key role to play in that, and he had to do the story of Wonder Woman. All of the heroes that we have seen so far are still growing as heroes. All of them, including Batman. Alright? So, there's going to be a payoff in Justice League for all that foundation work with these 3 core members who will help to mentor the other members, Flash, Cyborg, and Aquaman. Because they have gone through the difficulties and trials and tribulations of being a hero already. Batman, after a long career as a crime fighter, who was tired, went through all of that and was baptized by Superman so that he has a renewed hope. Superman has been baptized time and time again by his failures. His failure to pull the world together. Remember, he's supposed to be this beacon of hope, but the world was divided on him. And in his death, he has paid the ultimate price, which is bringing the world together. The world together. You see a symbol all over the world at a time when he's gone. When he returns, for the first time, the entire world will be in one mind about Superman. And he's going to come at a critical time. No. There is a payoff to all of these movies. And Jeff Johns knows it. Zack Snyder knows it. John Berg knows it. Charles Roven knows it. Deborah Snyder knows it. These are the people who were there in the beginning. Of course there's a payoff. And a deeper payoff than any other movie that has done comic book heroes. Because this payoff is not going to be fatalistic. It's going to be better payoff than Christopher Nolan's trilogy. And that's the bottom line. Okay? The world is going to accept Superman as one of their own, as General Hardy did in Man of Steel. Let me call you back to Man of Steel. The realization by General Hardy after Superman saves him, and Superman comes out looking like a Kryptonian. The way how Zack Snyder shoots at him coming out from behind the train, he looks like a Kryptonian. And General Hardy says, "This man is not our enemy. This man." He doesn't call him a Kryptonian. He doesn't call him an alien. He doesn't call him this thing. He doesn't call him this guy. He calls him this man. He accepts him as a human, as himself. So that's what the world will do. So Justice League is going to be the payoff for Batman v Superman, for Man of Steel. You're going to look back at Wonder Woman, Batman v Superman, Man of Steel. You're going to look back at these movies, and you're going to understand them after this, the final of the trilogy. Okay? So yeah, Zack Snyder is not our enemy. That's a shout out, by the way, to Richard Donner. Richard Donner, in the beginning of Superman 1978, when he saves Lois Lane and the helicopter, and she says, "Who are you?" He says, "I'm a friend. This man is not our enemy. I'm a friend. This man's not our enemy. I'm a friend." That's a hail out to Richard Donner. Oh, by the way, Zack Snyder also hailed out Richard Donner a number of times in his movie Man of Steel and in Batman v Superman. I will not be surprised he hails out Richard Donner in Justice League. By the way, in Justice League, you're going to see Wonder Woman as you know her, Superman as you know him, Batman as you know him in the Justice League. Okay? And interestingly enough, just one more tidbit for you guys to consider. This is the only movie in live action and animation where we get to see Batman actually embrace the Justice League into his life. Move from a loner to embracing the Justice League in his life. Before that, even when he was working with Batman and Robin and all these guys, we've never seen him, even in Super Friends, we've never seen that transition from him moving from his little thing in Gotham and his people to with the Justice League. We've never seen that transition. We've always accepted it for what it was, but we've never seen it. This is the first time in live animation or in live action we're going to actually see that. We've seen it in the comics, but most people don't read comics. So, all right, guys, enjoy. Remember, don't believe what people circulate about Zack Snyder. He's absolutely deeper. He's no Donald Trump. He's no Michael Bay. He's not just an action director. In fact, I would say Zack Snyder is more about drama and mythology. That's what Zack Snyder is all about, an epicness. But not epicness in a Michael Bay way, over the top epicness. No, I mean in a grounded sort of way. All right? We'll go about and talk a little bit more about Zack Snyder in the future. You guys have a great one.